everybody. Welcome to ValueMetrics.tv, powered by ValueMetrics.ai, where we speak with incredible leaders across the globe. Today, we have Shashank Mishra, who's the VP in HR from Affinity Global. He has a rich experience in the HR space, and we're so thrilled to have this discussion with him. Shashank, why don't you introduce yourself?
See, I am born and brought up in Mumbai, and I am an Australian citizen now and live in Mumbai. I came back for the love of the country and parents. Came back in 2021, but my overall experience is about 20 years. I started off in Feb 2005 in Bombay, a lesser known company today, but very famous back then. It was called Intellinet. Today it's called Teleperformance. And over a period of about 7 or 8 years, the initial phase that I spent in India, I went from Intellinet to Hutchison 3G to Bank of New York Mellon as their business partner HR for the entire asset servicing vertical, and then I headed HR for India's largest law firm, which was called back then it was called Amarchand Mangaldas, but today it's called Cyril Amarchand. And then I got my permanent residency to Australia. I moved there, started off as the first employee of a company. Today it's a multi-billion dollar company. Today it's called Niam. And then, about 5.5 years with them, 850 odd employees. Then I got an opportunity with SoftBank Robotics, and they said, "Can you do the same thing for us? Can you? I mean, in short, can you be the first employee?" Because they were also setting up shop in Australia, and I was in Sydney then, so I said, "Why not?" Took that opportunity, built a team of about 250, and then unfortunately, COVID hit, and we had to kind of wind down the numbers from there on. And in about March 2021, they decided to shut shop, and I decided to move back to Bombay.
Wow. Uh, my first question is when you have experienced so much in terms of culture, in terms of course, geographical experiences, in terms of different people, um, how does that shape you as an HR professional?
To be honest, over a period of time, nothing really surprises you, nothing really shocks you. You're kind of pretty battle hardened in a lot of ways. Ideas, uh, you really appreciate the diversity that ideas bring to the table. And so many times, but the other side of the risk is that you want to, this will not work, and you want to cut it off. I try and make the person speak. Whereas in India, we have a habit of just cutting it off. And I try even my team members to let the person speak, let them complete the idea and everything. So those kind of things are there.
So very interesting. You used the term cognitive agility, and I think that's extremely important in
Correct.
organizations
Correct.
because you cannot box yourself anymore. You cannot say this is my department and this is all I'm supposed to do.
Correct.
It's important for you to understand and connect the dots that this is how my role or my one decision impacts others and how it creates a ripple effect.
Yeah.
In the age of AI,
Yeah.
so in the presence of so many tools available at your disposal, how do you still cultivate a culture of agility, specifically cognitive agility, that you have to constantly learn from your own experiences? How do you make that happen?
Good question. I'll tell you, there's like a multifaceted, like not just one answer to this, but I'll tell you how I've approached it in the last 2, 3 organizations that I've worked. So there's a company called Criteria Core. Okay, it does a test, and I suggest this particular kind of tool. It doesn't have to be Criteria Core, but you can do it through multiple options. I love Criteria Core because I've been using it since 2015. So criteria. There's another one called McQuaig. So these tests are fantastic in telling you 4 aspects of human behavior, and you work. And that's why we say, right, each person is different. Okay, so what I do is, yeah, you've got the chat GPTs, you've got the gammas, you've got the bricks.io and all of that, Power BI and everything. That is essential. That's work related competencies to be able to use them effectively. But the problem generally happens is that you hire people for all the competencies that they have with regards to work. Okay, but then you fire them because they're not able to plug in with others. Okay, so that's the behavioral problems that you tend to, behavioral and interpersonal skills and all those things that you tend to fire because of. So I use Criteria Core, and Criteria Core is able to give you 4 distinct reports. actually five, but I'll tell you one by one. So the first report is the person's cognitive ability, okay, not just agility but the ability as well. So how the person is on logic and mathematics, okay, how the person is on complex problem solving, okay, how is the person on communication skills, okay. So those 3 to 4 items already done. If you give the person who's not good with numbers a role in accounts, okay, is that going to work? So this is like a medical test for the doctor, where you get the symptoms and you check out what's the real issue, because the real issue is usually 2 layers below. And then along with this report, you've also got the person's the personality profile. So is the person goal oriented or not? How excitable the individual is if some things are not working? How does the person deal with stress? How is the person going to push others for goals? And then the most important part is the EQ part. Okay, so there's three elements of EQ that can be actually tested. There's this part where when I'm talking to you, right, and my eyes don't lie, my expressions don't lie, and how do you read it? Do you read the room well? When you walk into the room, do you know the mood? Are you going to crack a joke at a funeral? So if you're going to crack a joke at funerals, okay, you can't really read faces pretty well, right? And then there is the other part, which is when I'm saying, when I'm writing messages, when I'm typing something, when you read something, the face is not available. Do you understand the hidden meaning, hidden emotions, and all of that behind that? So you've seen those people who get into trouble for cracking a joke and it doesn't land well on the other side. Okay, so those people have lack that level of intelligence. Okay, that's the EQ part. And then the third part is where, how do I manage my own emotions? Face, does it leak much, or whatever I talk, how I handle my this thing. So I have realized that you get the basic profile of the individual, acceptable level of this thing, you bring them in, and then you give them all those tools and everything. That's where a winning combination is coming through. Yeah. So there was a time where there was workers who were doing everything manually, and then you got machines, right? And then you had to get the workers to get trained to use the machines, and that's when the organization did well. And then you made different departments where things were. So that's something which is today valid in today's world. Also, you do it right. You put the process, people, and the systems in place, and you get a great combo.
So one thing I want to talk about is Gen Zs, right?
Yeah.
So you work with pretty much different generations, with them, under their guidance, probably mentoring them right now.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a huge discussion and discomfort around Gen Z culture, that Gen
Yeah.
Z
Yeah. Yeah.
do not have the same values anymore. The Gen Zs do not care anymore. Have you worked with Gen Zs? And if yes, then how do you sort of figure
Yeah.
out a way to
I know.
blend everything together?
Gen Z is a very general statement, okay? And to be honest, just like, we say, oh, Indians behave like this. Now, we were talking just before we started recording that Mumbai and Delhi thought process is so different, right? The same way, even Gen Z, there's all kinds of people within that crowd as well, okay? So, don't you know from your generation people who did not make it? You know that, right? Right. And some people who were overprivileged, underprivileged, and all of that worked very hard and all that. That is prevalent even today. Okay, so there is, yes, that Gen Z crowd for whom the millennials and baby boomers worked so hard that they don't really, they've been cocooned in what do you say, such a protective way that they don't really have the hunger, okay, to do much. They will leave the jobs which are paying well, doing well, and all that, and take a break and all that. That's there. These are the horror stories that you hear about Gen Z people, right? And my problem is that we are again generalizing this way too much. I have seen. I was working in Pune. I worked in Hyderabad with Fresh Prince, and I saw people coming from all backgrounds. Okay, and to be honest, if you come from an underprivileged background, if you've had to really work and fight hard to get whatever you have so far, then the Gen Z is as good as the one before, so the Gen X or Gen Y or whoever. Okay, you can just compare them as it is, and they are equally hungry for success and all of that. What has actually changed to some degree is how much the parents are pushing people to harden up, okay, to toughen up. However, coming from different cities, different backgrounds, I work with people from IIMs and ISBs and all that, and they are basically, the intake is happening from everywhere, right? So they also have a mixed bag of things. It's all about finding the right person and all that. And believe it or not, this test like criteria core and all that, it can actually identify those with the higher EQ. The ones with the lower EQ, whether you are Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen X, baby boomers, millennials, doesn't matter. Okay, they are going to find it tough.
I also want to talk to you about, you talked about EQ a lot,
Yes.
which I think is extremely, extremely important if you want to grow as an individual. Um, so hard skills are still easy to address and to verify or to cross check,
Yeah.
whether this person has a good technical hold of on his work or not. But we still call them soft skill, although they're hardest to acquire. I mean, resilience and emotional intelligence is very hard to acquire.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, for the sake of it, let's just call them soft skills like EQ and empathy and all of that. How do you judge that?
So I'll tell you two ways. Okay, obviously, uh, see, let me put it like that. Also, you also need to learn to be able to read those signs. Okay, so the certifications and the continuous learning as a leader is essential. Okay, and we tend to over rely on our experience to just say that, yeah, I'll have the skill just because I've been 20 years in that. But no, you need those formal, informal trainings and coachings and all that from leaders. But what happens over a period of time is that you start noticing traits in people when you are observing them in their day-to-day work, that this person probably gets into trouble for doing this all the time, okay, or is very good at doing something else. So you know which part of their EQ amongst the three which I mentioned, okay, they are doing well. Now, when you're in an interview situation, you ask them those questions, okay, which will give that experience of how they dealt with it in the past, which is the competency based interview techniques, as well as situation based interview techniques. As to asking we tend to ask hypothetical questions, and I'm going to ask the same thing. Tell me about a situation where you dealt with a very difficult stakeholder, okay, who probably gave you the most amount of trouble. What kind of trouble was being caused, okay, and why do you think that was happening? How did you go about settling that part? So you can see how the person has dealt with that particular situation, and you can judge what type of EQ was the person using at that point of time. You can even ask, if you're hiring a leader, you can ask questions about their juniors. Okay, how did you manage a very demanding junior, or a very high potential individual, or a low potential? So you want that 18 wheeler truck to have 18 wheels running at the same speed, and over ambition wheel burns itself out, or a slow wheel will also burn itself out. So the team needs to run at the speed at the slowest or the fastest people, average it out, and then you look at it. So you need to manage the pace at which people are comfortable and yet feel pushed enough not to get burnt out. You ask them those questions which you know are going to be faced by them in their day-to-day work, okay, which can get them into trouble or can build that faith and build that particular resilience, and whatever image that you require within that team, and you know that.
It's very nicely put, the way you said that. Eventually, I mean, AI is great, it's a great enabler, but at the same time connecting the dots to be able to see what humanity needs, what is it that people eventually need. It all
Correct.
comes from us, and you need to have a very deep level of empathy to be able to see through that.
Correct.
So I think that summarizes this discussion really well, that despite AI, it's human intelligence is absolutely innate, and you need that to
Non-negotiable.
keep everything going
Non-negotiable.
and evolving. And that is what brings me to my last question as
Sure.
well. That if you had one advice to give to the CHROs who are watching this podcast, what
Yeah.
would that
Okay, there is a strong push from leadership within the organization to go for AI. Push AI into the organization. Where what are you doing with AI and all of that? I recently attended a course with SP Jain, which was a 2-day course on AI in HR. And one of the best things that they did was they did not concentrate only on the AI part. They said, how does the human interact with the AI? It dealt with even the human emotions of bringing in AI. Do not rule out those individuals who have built subject matter expertise within the company to give that all of that up, okay, and adopt to AI, because AI is going to go for facts and all that. AI will not be suspicious about unknown facts and all that. Okay, so value that experience that you have within the company, right? And be cautious when you're implementing AI. Also, AI is an aid, not they're going to replace the human just as yet completely. So use that aid. And to be honest, like it's like this, right? I know that ChatGPT is probably going to give me all the facts and figures, and if I'm making a presentation, it can suggest all the topics and everything, right? But then, where do I really go to make that presentation? Is a human intelligence thing. Today, you've got AI in ATS, you've got in performance management systems. The HRMS is one point which touches the entire organization. Concentrate on making that life easier to begin with. There are multiple tools which are amazingly integrated with AI. Use them, implement them, get them there, make HR people's lives easy, so that we can be of much more strategic help to the team. Because the all the like the mundane analytics and all that data crunching and all that, AI can assist you with. Take it phase by phase. Use logic in implementation. Use that there, but do not forget the human behind the resource. Okay, so yeah, I think that's something which we need to understand. AI can solve numerical, logical, and all those problems, but it can't reassure people. So let's not forget that in the awe, or in the overflow of all the AI that is coming in, let's not get overburdened by that. And that would be my message to all my fellow HR people.
Thank you so much, Shashank.
And thank
Uh,
you so much, yeah, for
I
having
had
me.
so much fun talking to you. It was such an engaging conversation. There's so many wonderful things that you shared about the way you look at people, the way you deal with them, and the the innate feeling that you have to see them grow, to see them evolve. On that note, this was our today's podcast. If you like this discussion, we would request you to please like and subscribe to our channel. We have more leaders like Shashank who are absolutely wonderful and who are doing great in their way to contribute to the organizations. So, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much, Shashank, for today.
Thank you so much, Pooja, for having me here. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
You too.